Hey, what's up?
Stin of Chat Pile, please introduce yourself to the people that may not know.
Yes, well, my name is Stin. I play bass in a band called Chat Pile,
Well,
and that's it.
I made myself. As soon as you agreed to come on the show, I made myself promise that I wouldn't do any genre talk.
I'll talk genre with you.
Oh, you will.
Yeah, I will.
So, what genre are you guys?
I mean, that's a good question. I think the sort of like bass
And the best
layer.
questions have easy answers.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the easy answer would be new metal.
Oh,
Yeah, that's new metal. There we go.
He said it. He said it.
Yep.
Clip that. Somebody clip that. I need this for when I edit their Wikipedia page later. Somebody clip that.
I do think. I mean, there's a little bit of new metal in there for sure. That's why
I've got a question that's been on my mind for a long time. Once upon a time, I shipped you and your entire band some T-shirts, and I was like, just take a photo with those on. And you're like, okay, that never happened. And the theory that I've been running with is that you asked the band about it, and they're like, there's no fucking way we're taking pictures wearing shirts with new metal on them. We will not do that.
The real answer, I mean, there's maybe a part of that, but the real answer is that it's impossible to get the guys in Chat Pile to do anything. Like, show up to stuff,
certainly
answer important questions,
launch their modeling careers with us.
So yeah, and that's the other thing too, is like just taking regular photos that we like have to do is already a chore. So yeah, it's I mean, they're still sitting back there in our studio. I've got them stacked up.
Oh, that's
yeah,
good. I was hoping around. You at least had those around still.
Yeah, they're around. But
truly though, new metal denialism, it's like this hellish puzzle box that you're trapped in, because you're like, well, we're not that, and then it's like, but to deny is the most new metal thing of all. And I'm actually really relieved that you did come on the show, because every time I pull this bullshit with you, I feel like I'm just getting a little more on your last nerve, and you're like, would you just let it go already?
Well, here's the thing, is that I really don't care what people call us. Like, I embrace, if there are like new metal purists who think that we're new metal, then that's great, man. Like, sure, I'll be a new metal band for you guys or whatever. But I think we're kind of hard to categorize, because like the music we make is like essentially just like this amalgamation of all of our tastes kind of crammed into something that we hope is kind of cohesive, but we're really drawing from all kinds of stuff, like
you gotta admit though, it's better than noise rock, right?
To some extent. It's so funny because like, man, there are like noise rock purists that are out there. Might be some of the most obnoxious music fans on planet Earth. Like, I would say maybe even worse than like black metal guys, which are kind of notorious for being pretty insufferable. And like, they're honestly the only people on this planet that recoil when like new metal stuff comes up around Chat Pile. It's really funny to watch.
Oh, I know.
So,
I'm aware.
Yeah. So in that regard, I'm actually like, I'm really happy to wear the new metal, button or whatever.
But the rest of the band,
I think the rest of the band's pretty neutral also. I mean,
I gotta stop, because it's like, you're like, yeah, noise rock fans are annoying, but I am more annoying, because the noise rock fans are not inviting you on their podcast and stuff and being like, please welcome Stin of the new. It's gotta get old. It's gotta be getting old. So why don't we just move on from that one? Let's just move on from that one.
Okay, fair enough.
The new song, I Am Dog Now, the new album, Cool World. Cool World, is that a reference to the film? I almost said Ralph Bakshi, but I don't think that's...
Yeah.
Is it him?
No, that's right. Yeah.
Is it
and it is a reference to that. It's not like a literal, like, our album isn't about that movie or whatever, but we thought it was funny, and we all like bad movies, and that one was being discussed around the time that we were writing and recording the record. And then on top of that, Cool World, the world isn't very cool, it kind of all works out in that way too.
Well, you are a cool band. You have been referred to as the Strokes of your time.
Oh God, I hope that's not true.
It's not. It's definitely not.
We definitely don't occupy the same socioeconomic class as the Strokes, so I think in that regard we are automatically it doesn't work.
You are all full-time musicians, though.
We are now.
That is exciting.
Except for Captain Ron, he kept his day job, but he works for a guitar pedal company, so they kind of embrace the whole rock lifestyle.
Knowing your music, that feels like a good connection to have.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's funny though is we're not a guitar pedal band at all. Like I use one preamp and a tuner, and then Luther Manhole has like he's got a distortion pedal and a reverb pedal, and that's basically it.
I actually wrote. I've written something about your band that'll be coming out at some point, and I described it as it's like you guys are like what would have happened if nu metal had never broken through. Like if there was no Limp Bizkit, no TRL, like what if nu metal just stayed like an underground phenomenon? Because when it came out, it was more like closely associated with like industrial and
Hmm.
grunge and stuff like that. And so like I think a lot of I imagine it's like you guys would have come along and been like, well, what if we just did corn riffs but with like a Jesus and Mary chain drum machine?
You know, that's why I love you because you have such good insights like that. You know, I actually think that's really apt, honestly, because you know why most people shy away from the new metal tag isn't
It's
because
because of
of
Fred
the
Durst.
well, he's part of like the bigger picture of it, though. It's more the culture surrounding like the idea or lack thereof, possibly. And I think if like new metal would have existed in more of like kind of a DIY sphere, then people would, love it,
Yeah, I
or
was just conversating with someone about like we were, having a discussion like why new metal died and whatnot, and it was like, well, one of the reasons had to be that there was just no indie scene.
yeah, no, there's no like,
There definitely were indie new metal bands, but they weren't getting the fucking time of day from anybody. It's not like Pitchfork was like digging out the 616 Undone album or anything like that.
Well, yeah. Well, the reason for that being though is like I think, for a lot of people when they see a lot of these new metal bands, there's like this sort of like aura of inauthenticity about it, right? Because a lot of it seems so manufactured, like it's so inorganic the way a lot of these bands came to be. I mean, that's why I can still sort of fly the flag for Korn. I feel like they were part of a scene. There's other bands that were kind of in that early like South California new metal
Yeah, like
world. But
System and Cold Chamber and Static X.
yeah, exactly.
Bands
So
that
at
really
least
like earn their stripes.
yeah, for sure. And in that regard, at least there was like a community, so to speak. But it's still missing kind of like those punk ethos of like we're here to make art, and we're kind of railing against certain like commercial aspects of the music industry. If anything, it's kind of like take sort of this underground alternative like imagery and apply it to like the ethos of like the Sunset Strip like hair metal scene or
Right.
something,
See, that
right?
was part of the reason why there was no real indie press to support new metal, is because so much of new metal was rejecting the idea that you couldn't sell out. Literally, like all the new metal bands were like, "How do we sell out? What's the quickest
Yeah.
we can sell out?" Like the flagship new metal band, Korn, were signing deals with Puma, as soon as they possibly could. They weren't exactly Fugazi, is what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say. And then new metal has no like Fugazi. It was all people
No,
being like,
exactly.
can we get on Interscope? How do we do this?
Yeah, precisely. And then on top of that, there's kind of this sort of like sleazy sex, drugs, and rock and roll kind of attitude, at least to like the early days of like the new metal stuff that I think
Was
again kind of
there?
harkens.
It was more
I
like
think so.
meth, cores, and sadness. I don't know. I don't know if it was necessarily sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I feel like so this is the thing is like every time people describe like what's wrong with new metal, it always feels to me like they're just describing Limp Bizkit and Fred Durst. Like read between the lines. That's what it always seems to come down to.
Take like Korn, like the one band that I really will go to bat for. I mean, they were definitely partying hard and wearing it as like an identity. And then you've also got like at least for like the first three albums, like Porno is like very much like a sort of aesthetic element of the band. There's just kind of like this sleazy like LA rocker guy element to a lot of what those bands are doing.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, chat pile. So the new record, can you give us some insights on the what we're thinking about for the new record? Some influences, first week sales, Billboard.
Well, as far as influences go, I don't think anyone's going to be too shocked. It's not like we like jarringly changed our sound or anything. I do think it's a little more concise compared to the last record. Like God's Country has a lot of like kind of sprawling, longer songs with sort of complicated arrangements or whatever. And this one, we really tried to kind of go back to how we were writing on the EPs, which are a little more like verse, chorus, verse, Nirvana-y sort of like, arrangements or whatever. But, also I think there's maybe a little bit more of like a touch of gothiness to like the guitar tone and stuff. But For the most part, I think if you like the stuff that we've done so far, we haven't completely reinvented the wheel just yet, you know.
Do you like The Crow?
The Crow is a topic of conversation a lot with me and growing up.
So big fan.
So, well,
Fan.
culturally, no, I'm more of a fan of the phenomena of The Crow because I'm the perfect age of where like that movie came out and like people in high school and stuff would literally show up wearing like crow makeup and stuff, and it was kind of weaved into this sort of like faux goth culture that existed like in the late 90s or whatever.
You excited to see the
And if
remake?
I am so stoked to see the remake, if only because everything I've read about it, it sounds absolutely batshit insane. And it seems to like carry on all of these like elements of really bad taste that I'm so excited to see on the big screen,
Yeah,
you
I'm
know?
seeing these articles like do their time on Twitter. They're like, I heard it's unwatchable, and it's like you want it to be unwatchable. I bet it's not
I want it to be
unwatchable. No,
unwatchable.
I mean like people that are like feel like it's desecrating, such hallowed ground. Like they didn't
Oh,
like
it's not
like they
hollowed
listen.
ground
The
though.
Crow 3 had the guy from the Terminator 2 kid in it. Like this isn't exactly the
Oh,
hollow.
I know. We've watched. So, as many people know, the origins of Chat Pile are actually that. I mean, we've all been like close friends for a long time, but kind of right before the band started, we were doing a weekly bad movie night together. And one of the show is that Crow Salvation, I believe,
Yeah,
is
I think
part three
so.
with Eddie Furlong. Yeah, so
Ed
that was one of
Furlong,
the
thank
movies
you,
that we watched.
Edward
Yeah,
Furlong.
yeah. And then City of Angels is also an borderline unwatchable movie as well. So
Is
both of
it?
those came into rotation.
It's got Deftones in it. It's one of those
It's,
movies.
no, the soundtrack is another
The
question.
soundtrack is
Different thing
great.
altogether. Yeah,
The
soundtrack
soundtrack to
is pretty
Crow 2
good.
is fucking awesome. Sean Olsen.
That's right.
You had
One
to
of my,
take time out, right, to ask Ross about it
I
when
did,
we had him on the podcast. That's a great
because
song.
it's one of my favorite songs of all time, and it's on that soundtrack for sure.
And then Teething, like that's top shelf
Yeah,
Deftones. That's just amazing. I listened to that album, the Crow City of Angels soundtrack, while I was on mushrooms. While I did mushrooms the first and last time in my life, it was terrifying. It was a horrible idea. It was, I don't know what I was thinking. Terrible fucking idea.
there's if I'm not okay, the Hole does a cover of Gold Dust Woman
Yep.
on that,
Bush
and then
does In a Lonely Place by Joy Division, and they kill it. It's so good.
oh shit, I see that one. I don't remember the one me and Ron used to jam all the time when we were kids is the Filter song, Juristol.
Jurastol,
Yeah, yeah,
great song.
something like that. Yeah,
Great
yeah, that
song.
song kicks ass.
We
Yeah.
we have a drink special named after it for our Saturday party. Yeah, but I remember liking that second movie. It's like kind of like Rollerball, where the climax of the movie is when Slipknot shows up in that movie, and the climax of The Crow 2 is when Deftones show up. So
Wait, are the Deftones in Crow 2?
yeah,
They're like physically in it.
they
Oh
are
shit, man, it's
physically
been a long
performing
time.
teething. Wow. Yeah, it's the most significant part of the movie, but
That's like a chat pile dream, by the way, is for us to appear as ourselves in a movie performing in some type of like
you should have
underground
been in the
like
Crow
club
remake.
or
You should have
something,
been
you
in
know?
the Crow remake.
Damn, dude, it's a dream.
You would have been good. That would have been great, like atmospherically wise and everything. That would have been fucking awesome. Man, I do want. What happened to the underground bands performing in movies like that? Those scenes always kick so much ass. There's like a nightclub,
absolutely.
and everyone's raging, and then of course something explodes, and everyone's got to run for their lives. I think
Yeah,
it was one
yeah.
of the Hellraiser movies. It was in Triple X. Like, damn, we've lost our way. That's how I know this new Crow movie is gonna suck shit because there is no soundtrack.
Yeah, there's no scene where they like wander into a club. There's probably a scene where there's like a DJ performing somewhere, right? I mean, there's got to be something like that.
Come on. Anyway.
Because isn't I thought that like
Wow,
maybe
Biggie the
I'm-
Metal Punk, Chat Pile show up in The Crow playing Roots Bloody Roots. That would go, that would be spec fucking tacular. That really would be great. Terminator, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 had Vanilla Ice. Again, a great scene.
That's right.
A great scene.
Isn't Ministry an AI, right?
Oh, they
There's like
are! They are!
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic movie, by the way. Phenomenal.
And then you've got White Zombie in Airheads is like a big one.
Yeah. Man,
Um,
they don't do it anyway now. Just, they don't.
No.
Anyway, before we both spiral into our 30-something reminiscence. Are you still a 30-something king?
oh, I'm a little bit older than that
Ooh,
even.
you've moved into being a 40-something ghoul?
Yes,
I'm sorry,
I'm
40-something... What was the court jester?
I think just middle-aged might be the right term.
When did Chow Pile start to gain that kind of traction and how old. So like I put out an album that's bad just a couple years ago. I think I was like 28 when I put it out, and I remember thinking like this was going to be so embarrassing. I'm in my late 20s. You're not supposed to put out music in your late 20s. Everyone's going to judge me for this. And that didn't happen, of course. But you guys really made a go of it while you were 30-something Kings, right? Was there any
Yeah.
hesitancy to that?
No, I mean, because we've been playing music, in various bands since we were, teenagers, and it just kind of felt like a like natural. I don't know. It's like we never stopped, right? But I will say, this was the band where like myself, I'll speak for myself anyway. I was just kind of like, I'll play in this band, and after it kind of wears its welcome out, I'm just gonna walk away probably from trying to do music because it's such a pain in the ass and it's expensive, and I'm old and going to shows hurts sometimes and that kind of thing, But it just goes to show, I guess, don't quit, because you never know. Like, you may be old as hell like me and have a little bit of success.
You must have felt proud to be quitting your day job for music, right? That had to have felt good.
I mean, pride is definitely a big part of it. It does feel good. I think fear is maybe the biggest emotion that I felt with all of that. But also like gratitude and stuff too. It's like, yeah, like the last thing I want to do is like work a day job. And the fact that I can now kind of make this my day job is like, I mean, man, it's like it's like winning the lotto or something. I'm making
You'll all
less
see
money.
someday. We will fill 1,000-cap rooms. Just you wait. Just you wait.
Yeah, that would be nice. It would help keep this thing going for longer. We'll see how long we can make it last. But right now, things seem to be going okay.
Seems like you guys had a really big crowd here in LA. I just saw you guys at the something room, the lodge room.
Yeah, at the lodge room.
They
Yeah, so
confiscated
that
my, spray adhesive. I brought a can of spray adhesive, and they're like, "You cannot come in here with this." And I was like, "But okay," because it just looks like spray paint, and I got arrested for using it once, but they just held my backpack at the desk, which was great. Anyway,
that was nice of them.
your
Yeah.
lodge room show was cool. Very cool environment.
Yeah,
there.
that was sold out. I think it was like a 500 cap place, which is great. I mean, is wonderful. But of course, 500 cap place in LA isn't like, necessarily making us rich or anything. But it's much better than
That's a lot of people.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, I don't say any of that to denigrate what we've been able to achieve, or like how cool of a concept that is. It's just more like I do like, okay, especially like here at home in Oklahoma City, I think people are like under the impression that we're like rich and famous now, and it's like,
what is Oklahoma City rich and famous though?
That's a good. Well, there is a lot of money here, ironically enough, but it's all like oil and natural gas and stuff. So there is kind of a history of people who are insanely filthy rich. But as far as just your local like DIY scene person in their 20s or whatever, they look at us and they think that we're set for life or whatever.
Well, the reality of the music industry as it stands in 2024, Andrew O'Donnell and I, is if you can quit your jobs and do music full time, that's the new like $200,000 advance. That's the new like $1 million. Like, like 30 years ago, Jonathan Davis and company were sitting around like, we're gonna be millionaires. Now it's like, fuck, I can quit my job. Wow.
Yeah. I can pay the gas bill.
Sometimes.
Yeah, most of the time.
Most of the time. So you are rich and famous, and
I guess maybe I am kind of Oklahoma rich then in that case.
You on food stamps?
No, but maybe I should consider looking into that.
It's so great. You really should. I'm on it here in Los Angeles. It's a lot of fun. It's a source of embarrassment for my parents, but fuck it, we ball off EBT. I guess that's how I feel when I like buy like a steak or something at the grocery store with the EBT. I'm like, bah, ring that up, ring up the person behind me too. Fuck it. No, I don't do that.
Yeah.
If the city of Los Angeles is watching this stream, thank you so much, and please don't take it away. So, okay, so you are on record as a big Linkin Park fan, very influential to your music, correct?
What's funny?
That's when you stop trusting nu metal. Actually, that's when you.
That's literally when yeah, because I don't know. I mean, we've talked about this before, but the short story is I was very open-minded to new metal when I was in high school because that's kind of like when it sort of exploded. And then Linkin Park was sort of the moment where I was like, I don't think this is for me anymore. It's like it
But
just sounds
Linkin
really
Park is
slick.
funny because they only ever played label showcases.
Yeah.
They never
Yes.
toured. They never had spent their time in the van. They were just like completely manufactured. Speaking of which, completely
Yeah.
like manufactured and for label consumption. Which, by the way, in my opinion, is fine. If that's the game, play it. You know,
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I
they
am a
worked hard,
fan.
but
Yeah, I'm a
they
fan of
definitely
underground
did
music
not like
and
earn their stripes in that Dinosaur Jr. The Replacements old school style.
yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing is like, you know what? That's fine if you like got the jams or whatever, but I
Which they
just
do.
don't feel that from them.
Yeah.
I, you
Oh,
know,
oh, come on! I got the
I,
jams.
I've tried to kind of reapproach that music with an open mind, knowing A, how much it means to you, but also like just kind of generationally, like it seems like Linkin Park is one of those bands that means so much to so many
See,
people.
they had to get you.
Uh,
They got to get you at the right time. They got to get you at the right time.
yeah,
Anyway, but I don't
I
want
think
to
I
do. I
missed
don't
the
want to do.
window
I
there.
don't want to do Linkin I can. I can. Anyway, what I would like to do is some Cornage celebration. Now, you are on record as a very big Corn fan. You even said something once that has caused me much distress, which is that Chaff Pile is not influenced by new metal. They are influenced by Corn.
That's
You were
right.
very specific about that, which was such a stupid thing to say.
And the Deftones too, but yeah,
Oh, too. And Sepultura.
yeah, and Sepultura, but obviously they dip their toes in
And
the
I
new metal world.
and I feel like I read somewhere that there is some Slipknot in there.
Oh yeah, Luther Manhole probably more so than anybody else, but like I fuck with like the first two Slipknot albums for sure.
And you guys have crazy new metal nicknames, which has never stopped being amusing to me. Like, oh my god, the allegations whooping your ass. So, okay, but Korn though. Now you're an avowed Korn fanatic. You've seen them how many times?
I've lost count, but I would say it's 15 plus. And I've done stuff like I've like driven out of town hours and hours down the road by myself to go see them by myself. I'm doing it in October.
Which classic rock band, like acclaimed music act, would you put them on the same level as?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, man, that's a loaded question because
Would
I
you say
think
they're like the Stooges of the '90s?
they are more like they're like Kiss or I'm trying to think.
Well, they're
Like
certainly better than that.
yeah, no, I would agree, but I'm kind of trying to think more like culturally, like sort of where they fit in, right? Like again, like they're sort of this band that doesn't have like a lot of DIY or like underground ethos or something, but they still came in and completely changed the generation of music fans, you know? So, I mean, it's kind of hard to say exactly, but I do think like Kiss keeps coming to mind, maybe because they both start with a K, but I think also because they're one of those bands that like people either love them or hate them, you know?
Yeah, and
And
also like Kiss is. I feel like Kiss is another band where it's like, they're classic rock. They're in the classic rock firmament, but they're not quite like established on the level of like a Beatles or a Stones is. It's like,
yeah, well, I think maybe why it's not like a one-to-one analogy though is that like Kiss, like they're all about
that's a
like
good one.
like
Biggie the Metal
pageantry and
Punk.
stuff.
This is a good ass point. Biggie the Metal Punk says he thinks Slipknot is the Kiss of new metal solely for how large their empire is, and that's a great point.
That's true.
Because there's
And they
got to
have
be like a
the
Slipknot casket out there somewhere.
oh sure, and they've got the mask, which is like analogous to the makeup and stuff. But maybe I'm just kind of thinking, I don't know, yeah, because the other problem with Kiss being an analogy to Korn is that like they don't have the music to back it up. Like Korn has the chops, they have the songwriting, they have like individual
Attaboy.
members with all this talent and stuff, and like Kiss is just it's all smoke and mirrors. It's literally just gimmickry and marketing and stuff, So I don't know. That's something I'd have to think about
Just
a
can't
lot.
think
But
of I can't think of any other band that's that bad while also being that good and that successful. They're like really
Yeah.
101. They suck.
Yeah.
They rule, and they were fucking huge. I don't know
Yes.
if it had ever happened before.
no, or after, really, in the same way. Like, no way.
They're like multi-platinum Frank Zappa or something. It's totally impossible to even believe that miracle of a band exists. But so beyond that though, I want you to let the people know like what's your favorite Korn album, least favorite Korn album.
Okay. Favorite Korn album, I mean, would obviously be the first record, but I almost don't count that as an answer because it's just the default like truth. It's like empirical truth or whatever. That's the best one. So I would say that Issues is a 10 out of 10 record. And then Untouchables is maybe like right behind that one, I think.
Really?
And yeah. And I'll go to bat for like the like every from the first album to Take a Look in the Mirror, I think are for the most part like the true classic period of the band. I there's
Even
levels of
Take
like
a Look in the
varying.
Mirror.
Yeah, Take a Look in the Mirror is underrated,
The
I would
Virgin
say.
record era was nuts because Virgin Records came along and was like, here's $30 million, and they completely forgot how to like write music with new ideas, with like new concepts or anything. They were like, we'll do some like crunk, I guess, or it was like
Well,
it was another one of those eras where truly it was probably the last era where a rock band could do whatever and get away with it.
yeah, it's also kind of like the last. So what? Take a Look in the Mirror is what 2004? No, 2003,
Is that the one
right?
with Twisted Transistor on it, or is that the next one?
No, so that's the next album, and I would actually go as far to say that is my least favorite Korn album. I See You on the Other
See You
Side.
on the Other Side. I think that's
I
Jonathan's least favorite Korn album too.
I well, see, that surprises me because it's like the Jonathan show, that
Pretty much.
album, and same thing with the self-titled
That's
or untitled.
is that David Silvera's last work with the band?
It is, but what's funny is like you wouldn't really be able to tell
I
because
was
the
just about to
drums,
say he
yeah,
becomes so checked out. Like,
yeah,
and he was such a creative energy part of the.
oh yeah,
Like, I really mourn the fact that he had to suck as much as he does because
agreed.
his initial contributions to the band were so essential. His drumming just absolutely magnificent
Oh yeah,
on those first few albums. And then by the time that comes around, he's just like.
yeah, it's all disco beats, and then it sounds like so fake. And I'm almost like, did he even physically drum on the record? It just sounds like Pro Tool, like sequencing and stuff to me. There may be like one or two songs that I like on that record, but that's like easily, without question, firmly my least favorite of theirs is See You on the Other Side.
I pointed out on Twitter that the second half of David Silvera's Wikipedia page is some of the saddest literature ever written. He begged for them to take him back on
Yes.
Facebook while simultaneously talking as much shit about the band as he possibly could. He would join bands, get kicked out of the bands, accused of not writing anything for those bands, just trading off his name. And he also like called one of his former band members a bunch of libtards. And I gotta say, if you use the word libtard genuinely, I would also never work with you again. There is no such thing as a decent person that says stuff like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think luckily the members of Korn have been smart enough to, for the most part, keep their political views fairly quiet. They've gone through phases where they're not as good at, like, there's this whole like Alex Jones era of like Jonathan Davis.
But
And then,
it's like so harmless. He's like, the government is surveilling us,
Yeah,
and
I
Miley
kind of
Cyrus
agree.
is a part of it. And it's like,
it's also
it's so cute to revisit because it's like, man, remember when these guys were kind of just like harmless? It'd be like it'd be like your friend's older brother who never leaves the basement. You just catch him like on InfoWars, and you're like, that's all dumb.
Oh yeah, there was a time when like the InfoWars stuff was more just kind of like your libertarian weirdo friend would be into like this like kind of fringy thing, but it was like fairly harmless. It didn't seem, it didn't have this sort of like fascist bent to it that it does now, right? And I would say that was like kind of the era that where JD was kind of talking about the Illuminati and hanging out with Alex, or appearing on Alex Jones and that kind of stuff. And then you've got, of course, Head has appeared on the Mike Huckabee show.
Dude, I was just about to say that band has never gone like 2 years without another crazy ass moment. Head on the Mike Huckabee show playing Blind. By the way, I'm one of the only people with a clip of that. That video became unlisted on YouTube a while ago. I'm one of the only people that has a clip of that still, and it is so bizarre.
Wait, because they're trying to hide it, like hide the fact that he's done that. I mean, it would be in their best interest, I think, to probably back away from any like political musings.
You know what,
at
though?
all,
I'll tell you, I actually really, as someone that grew up in the church, I actually respect Brian's political arc, I suppose, a lot, because he obviously, as everyone knows, got really into the church. This is so mean, by the way, but he in like his documentary, he talks about like he just he's like, I did a bunch of meth, and then I remember looking up at the sky and being like, Lord, if you're out there, send me a sign. And then he's like, I just, at that moment, I felt God's presence in the room, and I was like, nobody, that was the meth.
Yes, yeah, no, totally. And the psychosis thereof. But
But I'm
I'm kind
glad,
of,
you know what though? He got clean. He then
yeah,
later, many years later, he posted something on Facebook about, praying, taking the time to pray with someone that was transgender at one of his concerts, and the people that followed him were absolutely so upset with him about that. Then he put out another statement. He's like, what is wrong with you people? And then
yeah.
distanced himself from the church after the fact. And so as everyone that's had grandparents and parents, not be great politically, you have to respect a guy that can get really into that kind of politics and then take a step back from that kind of
Oh
politics.
yeah, and that's kind of why I find like his whole arc actually it's kind of charming to me. I think it's sort of a good rock and roll story to begin with. Like I don't know, I think I have a few thoughts on it. Like one is that, I'm not a religious person at all, but if religion gets you off of being a meth addict or
True.
whatever, then it's probably better for you than the meth. And then yeah, he seems to genuinely want to sort of follow like the real tenets of like Christianity in the sense that he like wants to help people. He seems to have a very open mind. He seems to really be
Because if he was the
approaching
other
it.
kind of Christian, we'd know. They're not very
Yes,
quiet.
yeah, exactly.
Those like political Bible thumping jerks, they're not exactly the quiet type about
Yes,
their beliefs.
100%. And he really seems to be coming from it, at least like now, this is where I had to admit I've read like all his books. I've seen the
Really?
documentary. Oh yeah.
Man,
But
you
he
are
does.
dedicated.
I
Fuck.
am dedicated. Yeah. So like I said, he seems to have a good head on his shoulders, no pun intended, in terms of like how he's approaching this element of his life. I mean, again, I would probably really hate to know what he really thinks about certain topics or whatever, but hey, I don't have to dig that deep,
I'm
you
gonna.
know.
I want to try and come up with some corn trivia for you. I feel like you're. And if anyone in the comments, if anyone in the chat wants to come up with some corn trivia, really test his mettle, I would love that. Let me try this one. Let me try a couple of these. Okay. So as far as I'm aware, at least, Korn/Jonathan Davis, they've contributed 2 original songs to 2 different video games. What were those songs and what were those video games?
Well, the song is called Haze, right? Is one of them. But I don't know video games very well.
Video game
So
of the
yeah,
same name. So that's one.
okay,
And the
so hey,
other,
so then the other one, there's another one. Damn, that may have stumped me.
come on. No?
Ah, is it an actual song or is it
It's a
like
Jonathan Davis song. It's a solo track.
I don't know what is it?
Silent Hill from the game Silent Hill Downpour.
Dude, this is the first I've ever
Boom.
heard of this. So
See,
you
don't
got me
ever
first
fuck with me.
one.
First question out. So that'll be all. You're off the show. Good so long. But I would love to see if we can get some other trivia questions in the chat. Can you hit me with some?
Oh man, what's an obscure
LAPD.
corn pick? Yes, what does LAPD stand for?
Oh, that's a good one. I just thought that. I was like, oh shit. I know what he's gonna ask me. Fuck. Give me a hint. First letter.
Well, L.
It's just no. Like, what's the first letter stand for?
Oh, love.
Love and pain. Am I getting there? No.
Nah, well, you're kind of getting there, but no.
So the A is and.
Yes.
Fuck. All right. What is it?
Love and peace, dude.
And wasn't there another one where it was like, but it also meant?
Probably, but I can't remember what it.
Yeah,
What it
that's me
also
coming
meant.
back at you. Blah, like ping pong. What was the other meaning? Still not. If Jonathan Davis was a dinosaur, what kind of dinosaur would he be? Is this a real question? Or are you just being a smart aleck grandfather?
That one, if that is a question with an answer, I don't know the answer.
Okay. Okay. I got an easy. I got an easy one and a difficult one. Jonathan Davis makes a cameo appearance in the movie Queen of the Damned. What does he say?
Oh, I can like see the scene in my head, but I couldn't tell you. I did see that movie in theaters though, and here's the funny thing. I went not knowing that Jonathan Davis had anything to do with the movie.
Really?
Someone just like dragged, yeah. And then as soon as like the music started, I was like, yes.
Everybody's like, yeah,
So
woo!
I was having a good time, and I love the songs that he did for that movie, and it's one of life's biggest tragedies that the actual soundtrack has all, like different singers on it, and like you can only listen to it
It's a bizarre
basically by
experience because
bootlegging.
it has different singers, but the singers aren't doing like interpretations. They're just straight up trying to sound like
Yes,
Jonathan Davis.
but it just doesn't. I mean, you're totally right about that, but it doesn't work for me
But
still.
once
It's like,
again, what a crazy ass moment in new metal history
yes,
that a
absolutely.
movie studio was like, you know who's got the juice to do a whole original soundtrack for this movie? Jonathan fucking Davis. That's
Well, they picked the perfect guy because he's such a like dark sex poet guy, you know,
but
like
he's
it's
not like
perfect for that.
literary enough to really pull it off. Like I
Sure.
I appreciate it that it exists, but the songs aren't necessarily like listen, there is no possible way to say like, oh, yeah, this is a character in the movie. Every time that character opens his mouth to sing, you're like, well, that's Jonathan Davis.
Yeah, it's fully
Well,
Jonathan Davis for sure.
that's Jonathan Davis, all right. Yep, can't really argue with that one. Oh, I'm trying to think of another movie where that happened, where they brought in a band, brought in a singer, brought in someone to do the original soundtrack. And all I can think of is That Thing You Do with
Yeah, but it's just like basically a handful of songs. It's not like
but those
seven
songs
tracks
are
or
like
whatever.
oh yeah, this is super believable from these characters
Oh
from
yeah,
this
no,
era.
absolutely, yeah.
Whereas with Queen of the Damned, you're just like that's a Jonathan Davis song, that's for
Yes.
sure. And it also like hits upon that Jonathan Davis lyric generator. Everything's like flesh and pain and
Yeah, I feel the
skin.
pain inside is a
Oh,
big like, anchor lyric for him for sure.
that guy was like he was like on a Prince run of productivity, but the songs were all the same. It was like
Yeah.
Prince just writing one song over and over again.
Well, he has a tendency too to write like the same sort of like melody lines, which I get because like as someone who writes music, that's just what you do. Like you just kind of know your lane and you sort of do it. But like, yeah, over a 30-year career or whatever, you tend to notice kind of the same ideas
You're like,
popping
yep,
up a lot of times,
there
Yeah.
that one is again. Even on the most recent one where he's like let the guilt go and stuff. You're like, I guess that's a little bit of an evolution for this
That's
band.
that's one of my favorite late period songs of theirs, by the
I
way.
continue to ride out for the nothing as a very as a
It's real hit and miss. I mean, kind of like how really the only like later period one that I think is sort of like wall to wall is not the right word, but like is more consistent than others is
Serenity
Serenity
of
of
Suffering.
Suffering.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, they kind of like lean a little too much into like the little remnants of the dubstep stuff is still in there. It's like a little too
I have
electronic.
had this discussion a million times, and the truth is it's like Serenity of Suffering, The Nothing, and Requiem. There's like great albums in all of them, but the production is just so
Yeah.
boring. It just like
Especially Requiem, man. Like the production on that record is like it's full on like Breaking Benjamin
yeah.
laptop music.
Oh, it's
It's like
awful.
and dude, there are good songs
You
in
have
there.
to sit with it. You have to get through that. Once you can
Well,
like hear past that, then you're like, oh, these are good albums.
I saw them on the Requiem. Well, I've seen them on every tour, but with seeing them on the Requiem
This
tour,
guy.
I was like, okay, these songs are actually bangers. The problem is that the production is just so modernized and bad. It's like you can't even tell that there's like a rock song in there, you know?
Well, I posited this question before. I was watching a year and a half in the life of Metallica, which is the Black Album
Oh,
documentary,
we could have a whole nother
which is,
episode
by the
about this
way,
movie.
unbelievably engrossing. It's 2.5
It's
hours. It's really difficult not to watch all 2.5
yeah,
hours in one sitting.
it's better than Some Kind of Monster,
Oh,
in my
by
opinion.
far.
It's an incredible one of the greatest rock documentaries of all
It's
time.
actually great because you know why? Because it's a rock documentary that documents a band just on a fucking world-changing roll. There
Yes.
is no like dramatic turn or anything. They're just like, man, things are going great.
Like we're really knocking it out of the
Man!
park with this one. Yeah.
Everything is really working out. They're writing the songs like, these are some good songs. They're putting the album out. We just sold 600,000 copies in a week. They're going on tour. We're selling out arenas. And then it
Yeah.
ends. There's like no drama or anything. It's just like, fuck, this is
And
awesome.
it's them at their like creative peak too. It's like real actually like the one two
Which is to
punch of
say, by the way,
that.
that they've discovered how to write like a second song. That's Metallica's creative peak, is they're like, we can do ballads.
Well, and well, even like the heavy songs on that album, like that's another one where like the production changes like the way your brain like processes them because there's a lot of like thrash songs on that record. It's just hard to tell because it has this huge arena Guns N' Roses like production to it.
Which is, and it's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, no, it kicks ass. Like I ride hard for the Black Album,
But
dude. Like
I was bringing up the documentary because in the documentary they're working with Bob Rock in the studio, and there's just so many scenes of Bob Rock constantly, like really calmly but really firmly pushing them to write the songs a different way, sing a different way, play the drums a little different way. He actually says one thing at one point. He's like, "Lars, let me hear that again, but a little more peppery off the top." And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck. There's no way Lars was like, of course. But it's one of those things where it's like if a producer said that to me while I was on the drums, I feel like I'd come up with something a little more peppery off the top. I feel like I would just come up with something. But I was like, do producers still do this? Do producers still get in the studio with the band and are like, this could be better, rewrite this, go back, do this again, let's try it like this? Do producers still do this?
I don't think rock producers do
It
because I don't think
concerns me that they don't.
In fact, I would almost like I would go as far as to guess that any like major studio rock record that comes out, the songs might already be even pre-written by a producer to a certain extent to where they're not being like, oh, hey, we're a band and we brought in like these songs. How can we jazz them up a little bit? It's probably more like, all right, here we go. We've got this, that, and that, and we're gonna hit the auto tune button, and you're gonna talk the lyrics real quick, and we're gonna program the drums.
This is why
done,
this is why Ross Robinson was like the debut album whisperer. He was like the guy you called if you wanted your debut to be absolutely perfect, because he would not take any shit. He would be like, you are not calling that a vocal take. You will get back in there. I will take this razor. Corey, here's a razor blade. Get back in that booth and don't come out until this vocal take is great. I am worried, though, that rock producers aren't pushing anymore. And I think this came out the first time most vehemently because we were on this show. We were listening to the new Serge Tankian single. Did you hear it?
I don't know. I haven't.
You don't know because if you had, you'd have forgot it already.
Okay, yeah, because I don't really keep up with them.
But I was listening to it and I was like, I would never have let this happen. I'd have been like, this sucks. This is terrible. This is a draft. We're throwing this.
How does like the actual like production on it sound? Though?
It doesn't sound like anything. I was forgetting how this song was going while I was listening to it. So let me ask you this though: who produces your albums? Who produces Chap
we
albums?
do. I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I record it in our studio. Now this, I should say the new album that's coming out. Ben Greenberg from Uniform mixed it for us. So I did all the recording, and then we sent the tracks to him, and he mixed it. So
I definitely feel like though when the legacy bands get in the studio at this point, they're like, it's a job. I'm clocking in, and then I'm clocking out, and I don't want anyone to make this difficult.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think part of that is that they have the not making it difficult part in my eyes is them just being like, yeah, just tell me what to do. Like I've got these ideas, producer, just kind of tell me how to assemble. Because that's like, at least with Chat Pile, the hardest part of writing and recording music is the arrangements of it. And if you had somebody just kind of telling you how to arrange certain ideas, it would like make recording a record so easy. If you had someone that you trusted anyway.
You should let me produce the Chap album.
Hey, man, we have talked about like in the future, if things keep going well and we can afford it, like looking into having like an actual producer. It would be kind of fun just to like be able to say that we've done that, or but the way our workflow is, it's so trial and error. I would be afraid to like present ideas to.
I'd be in there. I'd be like, yeah, let's try the one with the drums that go boom. Does that narrow it down? At all? That's what I would do. I'd hire a session drummer for you guys. I'd hire like a real skilled session drummer to come in there and ruin every song. So, with the creative approach though, and it's the new metal agenda. We're gonna talk about new metal, but why don't we talk about some bands that did influence you guys that are not new metal? For instance, I've brought it up a couple of times to your face. I feel like the production reminds me a lot of the Jesus and Mary chain. Is there any? Am I on the right track with that one at all?
I would say everyone in the band likes Jesus and the Mary Chain. I don't know how conscious that they are in particular, but to maybe like zoom out a little bit, that kind of like British 4AD type
Yeah,
sound
yeah.
is
Basically, just
is
a lot of reverb on the drums.
yes, yeah, exactly. It's that's like a huge, at least for me, because I'm doing the producing for the most part. Like that's like a massive part of like what we're trying to incorporate into the band. Like Cockatoo Twins is a big one. Um, so stuff like that. And then there's a death metal band from the early '90s called Disembowelment. From Australia, who they're incredible, and this is someone who can be a little picky when it comes to death metal and stuff. But they were a death metal band that was doing the same thing, like down to their album artwork and stuff. They're like totally ripping off the 4AD like template and stuff. It's very interesting. So kind of those two worlds, and I would say that Jesus and the Mary Chain kind of live in that spectrum.
Where the lead singer goes by Raygun, right? And
Yes.
is he back from his Olympic debut, breakdancing debut?
I got hit so many times on Twitter with the ray gun analogies. It wasn't even
I
funny.
almost joined him, and I thought like they probably need a break from this. Actually, maybe.
It's kind of like when the Grimace shake was a
Oh
thing.
yeah, that's
Oh my
right.
God.
I
My
see.
phone
If
was
I had
just
been your social media
smoking.
manager, I'd have been like, "We're making TikToks now. Get in the river or whatever." What about But Raygun is a compelling figure to me. So like, where I struggle to call it a singing style at all. Who wrote Naked Lunch?
William S. Burroughs.
So he's like William S. Burroughs, right? Like, does that make sense at all? Like, that's kind of what I think of when I hear him perform.
So you think there's kind of like a stream of conscious element. Like he does do that from time to time. Like the end of Grimace is very much just like off the cuff, him kind of melting down. But actually the first two EPs are like wildly improvised. Like they're like the way we recorded those is Luther, Ron, and I had recorded the songs, and then Raygun hadn't even heard them, and we basically put headphones on them and put them in a closet and just told them to like do whatever. And so there was a little bit of foresight on some of them, and some of them, of course, we went back, but like some of them are like literally just like him riffing. Like Crawl Space is him just like riffing the whole time. And then Davis is another one where he's like riffing quite a bit. And then Rat Boy, I like those came pretty heavily from like him kind of doing this like stream of conscious like weirdo stuff.
Stream of conscious weirdo stuff is how you would
Yeah,
put it.
yeah,
What about some of his personal influences? I believe a lot of his influences actually are cinematic. He has a tendency to just
yes.
ramble about movies on stage. Last time I saw him, the two times I've seen you guys actually in LA, I was like, wow, this guy is a real cinephile.
Yeah, though that's kind of his thing, as he likes to talk about movie. And when we tour and stuff too, he like has to go to different, he'll look up like, oh, this was shot here. We need to go to the scene from Class of 1984 or whatever, and like, go to the high school where that was filmed or whatever. Like we've made detours for that kind of stuff before. But I think his biggest influence, he would say, is probably Para Ubu. I believe the singer's name is Dave Thomas, not the Wendy's guy.
Oh,
But but Peru is like a big one for him. And then it's funny because obviously we take a lot of influence from the Jesus Lizard, but he's not like a big Jesus Lizard guy, but he does like Scratch Acid, which is like the kind of proto version of that band. So, but he's really more of like a indie rock, and then like he has very eclectic music taste. I'll say that. He's like maybe him and Ron are not really coming to the band from like a metal or like heavy side of things at all. They're really influenced by other stuff.
that's sort of your deal.
That's me and Luther are bringing kind of the more metal thing to the band for sure. And we're the ones that write the riffs and have so that's kind of why the music is as metallic as it is, because we're the ones bringing that stuff to the table.
Okay. Industry rumors, by the way. Since you are a member of the music industry, I'm sure you hear a lot of gossip. Did Steven Carpenter quit Deftones?
Okay, right before I jumped on here, I saw like a tweet or something where they played a show without
Two of
him.
them now, two in a row.
Two. Okay, but this is the first I've heard of it. So if he's out, I don't really like I'm a Deftones fan, but in the most like kind of passive way. So I don't really understand the like inner dynamics of that band very well. I do know that Stephen Carpenter has been in the news somewhat recently for his like crazy like conspiracy beliefs and all that kind of thing. I wonder if he is suffering. Again, this is with me not knowing anything about these dudes at all. Like, is there some type of mental health crisis going on with this dude, and they've got to kind of like soldier on while he gets his shit figured
Or
out?
they're just
Maybe.
sick of him. You know how it must be when you have like a conspiracy theorist in your band? That's got to get old. Where like the politics are diverging a little bit, like kind of like
I do know that feeling because the band I was in before Chat Pile had that very scenario
and
going on for a while.
and certainly like John in System of a Down, you know,
Mm.
who I've long since referred to by the way as a bum ass drummer. I think he's the weak link of that band. I think they could have replaced him basically at any time, and they'd be better off.
Yeah, you're probably right about that, but like this, the kind of like weird looseness of that band is the charm of them, wouldn't you say? Like they do have this kind of like sloppiness
Yeah, yeah,
to them.
it's true. It's
That is
true.
like a part of the what makes them stand out. You know, I don't know.
They should stand him outside of the band. Is what they
I
should
think at
do.
this point it would be very easy to just be like, all right, we
He posts
let's
like
move on.
he posts those like really like bottom sucking transphobia memes on his Instagram and stuff, and you're like,
Oh, see, I didn't. I mean, I knew
come
he was bad. I didn't know he was going
on.
that far. I think that's like grounds for divorce.
Oh,
Easy.
definitely. I'd have fired him
Like,
the same day.
yeah,
I'd have fired
just
him
kind
the
of
same
like,
day.
yo, like nobody's coming here to see you, dude. Like,
Why haven't we done a? We should do a time. We should really do a timeline of his egregiousnesses for our website and just burn that bridge forever. We'll never
yeah,
be able to talk about them ever again. But I
yeah, do the
digress.
hard work for the band. You know, like give them a reason to kick his ass out. You know,
Right?
once
Wouldn't
and
that?
for all.
He'd probably come after me with a hammer at that point. So, Andy, did they have another drummer called Andy? I guess they had another drummer ahead of that. Okay. Well, we're right at about the end of our show. So before we go, though, I want you to swear your allegiance to the new metal agenda. I want you to let the people know where you guys are at, where Chow Pal's at, where you guys are going, what you're doing, you know, your new record and whatnot.
Yeah, so actually, we have a brand new single and video coming out tomorrow.
Oh,
In
yeah.
fact,
By the way, let's get some questions in chat. Before, oh, my God. Forgot about this. Please, if you're in chat and you're a subscriber to the channel, you are allowed to ask any question you'd like. Please do that. All right.
yeah,
Go
happy
ahead.
to answer questions. Oh, yeah, so we have a single coming out tomorrow with a video. The video's honestly one of the coolest things that I think we've ever been a part of. Directed by a guy named Stephen Mondix. He did an amazing job. But that's coming out tomorrow. Check that out. And then the album Cool World comes out on October 11th. And then we will be touring the Midwest and East Coast all through November. So tickets are going pretty fast for like the bigger markets. So if you live in like a New York or Chicago or Boston, I would recommend not fucking around and getting your tickets now, or else you're going to be left out in the cold probably.
Because this
And
is a
then,
band that's selling them out.
that's right.
Selling them out.
I mean, selling out moderately sized, smaller venues, but they are selling. So be warned. And then here's just like maybe a special scoop for people watching this right now. We are going to be touring the West Coast and Texas in February with two very cool bands, and
shit.
we won't be announcing that until like mid-September officially. But you know, if you didn't see your city listed on the last announcement, don't be afraid. We'll probably be coming
Don't
to your
despair.
town.
Got a question
Yeah.
here for you. Question for Stin. Instead of me. Well, I want a question too. Question for Stin. What's the horror movie with the most influence on Chat Pile's vibe? Ooh.
Oh, that's a great question. Man, there's so many. Well, Raygun is obsessed with the Friday the 13th franchise. So, I mean, by default, I think that is like the real answer. But there's movies that we all like have watched together and had a really great time with. I mean, Exorcist would be a big one, of course. There's some kind of like deeper, danker cuts as well. Like there's a movie called Offerings that was shot in Oklahoma City in the 80s that Raygun's really obsessed with, and I've watched a couple times with him. It's not the greatest movie, but as far as like low tier slashers go, is really fun and is most certainly shot in Oklahoma City and looks like it. And then there's another one called Blood Lake that we actually just discovered kind of recently, but it was shot just outside of Oklahoma City in the mid 80s on VHS. And it's one of the it's like blowing our minds.
That
Like it's
sounds
kind of
very
taking over.
scary. That all of
It's
that
so good.
that you just described, that sounds terrifying.
It's well, I mean, it is terrifying to some extent, but it's more goofy than anything. But what the coolest part of it is that it is a true time capsule of what Oklahoma would have looked like in like 1987. Like it is as close to a documentary film as you're gonna get. So I would say all of those are big influences on
It
us.
almost feels like Oklahoma itself is a horror movie that has a lot of influence on you guys.
Yeah, it is kind of its own sort of deal. Did you know like the last Hellraiser movie was shot here, and the final scene is the man realizes that he's condemned to live in Oklahoma City for eternity, and that's like the end of the movie.
Wow, that's no,
Literally, it's like
no,
it's a drone shot of a guy be like, no, and it's downtown
no,
Oklahoma City.
no. All right, well, that's all we've got here on subscriber questions that are questions that are allowed to be asked by subscribers. So, before we're done here, though, I would just like to say, on behalf of myself, new metal, and music in general, thank you so much for all of your contributions to music. It means a lot to me to watch bands full of young faces like yourselves striving hard, and your art has meant so much to me, and I'm sure so many of these people in around the world as well.
Great. Hey, and before we go, I want to say just returning a compliment again. I really, even though I'm not the biggest new metal fan in the world, I have nothing but love and respect for your passion for it and your ability to contextualize the history, culture, and meaning behind the whole movement. I think it's very necessary, vital, and very cool.
Thank you.
So
It's
congrats
all
on
I
that.
do.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I know.
can we declare you a card-carrying member of the?
Oh yeah, for sure.
There we go. All right. Thanks so much for joining us, bro.
All right,
Have
thank
yourself
you.
a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye.
Yeah, that's right. I changed the rules on y'all.